Okay, Director Paul, we are now being recorded.
I'm calling the meeting of the Administrative Committee to order. And let's take the roll call, please, of the members.
Director Malik,
Here.
Director Anderson,
Here.
and Director Paul.
Here. So the first order of business is, are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Yes, directors, we would like to pull item number 3 off the agenda. We don't have all the necessary information. We will be bringing that back at the August board meeting, AdCom meeting.
Okay, thank you. Item 3 then will be removed from the agenda. Any other changes?
Sarah, can you move Stephanie over to panelist?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good. Hi, Stephanie. So I see we have one attendee from the public who was called in. So I will ask if there are any comments from the public on any item within the district's jurisdiction, apart from the action items on the agenda. If you'd like to, if you have comments for the committee, please.
Press star 9. Yes,
Press
star
star
9 from your telephone.
And now we have our chair on as a listener, also as a member of the public. Greetings, Chair. Okay.
Yeah, I think the phone caller is probably John Tilley, based on the number.
Thank you. Okay. So let's move ahead. First item on the agenda is the committee minutes from the last meeting, June 14th. Any corrections to the minutes? If not, I will move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, let's have a vote, please.
Director Malik,
Aye.
Director Anderson,
Yes.
and Director Paul.
Yes,
Motion passes 3-0.
thank you. Second item on the agenda. Sleepy Hollow.
Yes, so Larry Hampson is here with us, and I believe he's got this one and the next one on the items.
I'll do the introduction to this one. For the board members, Larry joined today because he is very much the expert out in the field of what's happening at Sleepy Hollow. And we did have a little bit more complicated staff note that was pulled, as Larry mentioned, because we didn't get the necessary information. But I had him join us today just in case there was additional questions about the item that I'm going to present really quickly today, which is the to hopefully get authorization to have an agreement with Telemetrics, who is the company that did the programming for Sleepy Hollow. There, as you all know, was a significant upgrade to the facility, and there's essentially a computer program that helps us track what is happening at the facility and how to control the facility, which is called the programmable logic control. And this company, this individual based in Marina, does all the programming and also helps with all kind of questions outside of the expertise of staff, which are fisheries biologists and engineers, with regards to control of the facility and how pumps are functioning with relationship to temperature, voltage, pump failures, the plant losing power and switching over to the generator. So this company, and I want to just show some slides of what they provide the district. They provide us with a real-time information. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. And then let me know if you can see this. I'm going to go over here. Oh,
Excuse me, can you please speak up a little bit?
yeah, sorry, I'll get the mic right in front of me.
That's
Um,
better.
Hopefully this is better. So as you can see, one of the things that telemetrics provides is a website that any district staff employee that's in charge of Sleepy Hollow can access in real time. That gives the status of the facility. And this is a screen grab of that status. It talks about whether the plant is on utility or on generator. Last year during the fire, we were on generator a lot. It was really critical to have that information.
Excuse me, Thomas, is it possible to enlarge what we see on the screen?
Yeah, I was gonna do that, but then it kind of
It doesn't
when I-
want to do it?
yeah, it's just I'll describe it kind of, and then we can show you in the future. These were kind of screen grabs. If I go to the website, it kind of hangs up and takes a little while to chug through it.
Okay,
But it talks about flows at the plant, levels in the tanks. It talks about temperatures, which are really critical for steelhead. The temperatures can't get that warm. And it also gives you warnings if a pump failed, and it'll tell you exactly what's happening. So here, this, it says water levels here, and you can just see the plots here that show this constant level moving across here. That's a good sign that everything is level and nothing's crashing. It also shows the flow in gallons per minute, as well as water temperatures. You can see how the temperatures fluctuate throughout the day. So all of this is tied in to this website through sensors and programs. And so that's just some of the services that telemetrics provides the district, as well as the alarm system. When something fails, we get phone calls in the evening for really critical failures, such as a pump going down. And then we also receive text messages or emails if it's not as critical of a notice of the plant. So what we're hoping to do is retain telemetrics, who has been with us since the facility has gone through the upgrade and done all the programming at on an annual basis. And this cost estimate is just over $17,940. And if you look at Exhibit A, the consulting services is when he actually has to come on site and manipulate the program or fix something based on some changes that we make or desire, as well as the operator response / alarm dedicated group that warns the district when there's a failure at the facility, where we have to act very quickly and get out on site. And that's $2,940 a year. And so I guess I'll stop there to try to not make it too wordy, but if anyone has questions, Larry and I can answer those.
thank you. I have a couple quick ones. How long have we used this technology?
So we've been using this technology ever since the plant went online, which was basically last year in spring. We started testing it. That was when the major retrofit of the intake system was completed, and we actually got to use the computer system out there, this PLC program logic control device, as to control the plant. And so we're going on our second year now.
Thank you. And if the technicians or the consultants do need to come on site, how long does it take them to get there? How soon can they get there?
Well, that's one of the advantages. They can get there roughly in 35 to 40 minutes, which has been really helpful, especially during the fire. He was on site on a regular basis to make sure that we didn't lose power from the generator. And he's also been on site to do what I would call like a hard reset of the system to get it back up and running when we had a power failure and it didn't come back online.
Thank you. Yeah, that's good. Director Anderson, Director Malik, do you have questions?
I have a question for the next item, but not this one. Thank you.
The question I have is why are we paying extra compared to the estimated amount of $16,000?
Do you want to handle
Well, I
that one,
can-
Larry?
Yeah, I can handle that. So we had just a rough budget estimate from TMX back in, I think it was April. And subsequently, I think we all realized that some of the costs of running the system weren't included in that rough budget estimate. So for instance, there's this special dedicated telephone line and web service associated with this that wasn't included in the rough estimate back in April.
And have you used this company before?
Yeah, this company is the one who wrote the programming for the brain of the facility. So, and they've been the one that's up until just recently, they were providing the alarm system notification and the monitoring as part of the upgrade contract, but that work has stopped. And so now we're rolling over to an annual contract with them to provide that same service that they provided up until June of this year. So we're experienced with working with them.
Thank you.
And I do want to just point out, the budget for this item assumes that the facility is going to be run for 12 months. So we're assuming about 8 hours per month of consultant services. Generally, we'd probably only run the facility for about 6 months. So, but in order to take into account the possibility that this facility could be running for an entire year, the budget reflects services for throughout this fiscal year.
Thank you.
This would be if we have warmer temperatures than usual during part of the year.
Well, if we don't get enough rain, we potentially could be operating well into February or March. I think the last time the river didn't go to the lagoon, which is the trigger for releasing the fish from the facility and shutting it down, was I think it was 1992. So in almost every normal or even below average year, the lagoon would open and the fish would be placed down in the river where they're taken out. But there's the possibility that it won't go to the lagoon. So, next spring. So we're budgeting for 12 months of operation here.
Makes sense. Thank you. Any other questions on this? Well, I move that we recommend to the board that we approve this request, staff's recommendation.
Second.
Okay, let's have a vote, please.
Director Malik,
Yeah.
Director Paul,
Yes.
Director Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Okay, and we
Yeah.
are not, I will go next to item 4.
Right. Chair,
Yes,
may I ask a quick question about item 3? I know it's been pulled, but may I ask a question? Since it's related to the Sleepy Hollow.
unless our general counsel says no, it's fine with me. Okay.
Okay,
Please.
so my question is related to the text about the discussion in the discussion section, that the Sleepy Hollow was intended to be a short-term mitigation activity until the new water supply was built. So does that mean that as of January 2022, there is potentially some change in the use of the facility, or just only once that the expansion gets online?
Yeah, it's more when the expansion comes online plus a period for monitoring. So all of the mitigation measures that we do have been the result of various CEQA actions, not the least of which is that in 1990 we did an EIR that examined 5 different pumping regimes off the river, and even the most minimal regime at the time required certain mitigation measures. So we'll need to observe the river in a post-CDO world for a number of years in order to figure out what can be terminated and what might still need to happen. While small, the proportion of water taken from the river by non-CalAm pumpers has gone up relative to where CalAm is going to end up. So there's still going to be some work needed to be done. So we'll keep that facility up and operable certainly through that period. I think NOAA Fisheries, National Marine Fisheries Service, has some designs for that facility of their own that may or may not be consistent with the district's plans, but as of right now, that's not the case.
Thank you. That makes sense.
I also have a few questions about this item. I was going to hold them since it's going to come back to us, but just to give staff a heads up, I do have some questions about this hypalon material, this toxic stuff, and any hazards or potential health or environmental remediation or precautions that will have to be taken when the liner's removed. So we don't have to discuss it now. We could discuss it when it comes back on the agenda, but just to let you know, I do have questions about that. So let's move on then to item 4.
Maureen, are you introducing this one?
I'm sorry.
Are you introducing this item?
Yes. Good afternoon. I'm here to ask that the committee recommend authorization to enter into a contract for landscape design services at Aquifer Storage and Recovery Facility located on General Jim Moore. We went out to bid, I believe it was we issued a request for proposals on April 30th. The scope of work was really 2 parts. The first part is to compile a bid package for, yes.
We're having some trouble with
Sorry,
the
I thought
internet.
I heard.
Yeah.
Is everybody else okay, or is it my internet?
I think it's you. A little choppy. Are you in your office or are you at home?
I'm home.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make it quick. So it's for 2 basic tasks. One is to get a bid package together for landscaping, and the second is to come up with some concept designs for a public outreach installation that we would do at some point in the future when the board chooses to spend money, or ideally I'm able to bring in a grant for the outreach. We reviewed the proposal, well, when we opened proposals on June 10th, we only received 1 proposal. We reviewed the proposal and contacted references. The references were fantastic, and we're requesting that the committee authorize a contract with Ecological Concerns Incorporated in the amount of $21,988. Are there any questions?
Yes. Is this the same one that we approved last meeting?
Yes, it's the same one we reviewed at the Public Outreach Committee. And that was an information at Public Outreach. This will be recommending that the board authorize the contract.
I thought we approved it already.
That one was just information.
And that was just the Public Outreach Committee where that was discussed. Is that right, Maureen?
Yes.
Right, and then it goes to administrative committee for the actual expenditure of funds before it goes to the board.
Okay. Okay.
Do you have other questions, Director Safwat?
No, I don't have. I was just clarifying because I remember seeing it before.
Yes, yes. I
Okay.
was not at that meeting, but this company sounds just wonderful. Really.
We were
Just wonderful. Yeah. Other questions?
I
Okay.
have one. In the financial, in the plans as that are presented, there's a process by which, there's an initial plan, and then they bring that back, and then there's all three, there's usually three plans. All three plans then get redesigned or refocused at 90% before the final one's chosen. I am assuming that if everybody that's voting on this is, let's say, really positive on just one design, that we don't spend the money on getting to 90% on the other two, that's just that's there because it might be needed.
Yes, I hope that we can get everybody to agree on one design. I'm planning on three being able to cover the bases.
Thank you.
And if we don't need to, we won't spend the money, definitely.
Maureen, you mentioned the possibility of a grant. Can you tell us a little about that, please?
I'm still in the process of looking for grants. I know with IRWM, there have been several grants that have an outreach component. We have a round 2 implementation coming up. So that might be a possibility. And there are usually other grants with the various water agencies that promote outreach. And so I'll work with the other areas and find out if any of the grants have outreach requirements and ask if we can partner on that.
Yeah, that would be excellent. Thank you for doing that. Any other questions from directors? Let's check with the public to see if any members of the public want to comment on this item. Sarah, can you check Sarah, please? Is she on?
Here's Sarah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Did we lose her?
Sarah, you are muted or we can't hear you. So she may have lost the microphone. So no, Chair Paul, I don't see any raised hands from the public.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So I move that we approve the recommendation of staff on this item, this landscaping project.
Second.
Okay, let's have a roll call vote. And if we don't have Sarah, we'll figure out a way to do it.
I'm here.
Okay.
Director,
We lost
Director
you
Anderson?
briefly, I think.
Director Anderson,
Yes.
Director Malik,
Yes.
and Director Paul.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Okay. We're item 5.
John Lear, you're up.
Can you hear me? Great. Good afternoon, directors. This is item 5. It's to consider converting the hydrology technician position to an assistant hydrologist position. To give a little bit of background, the Water Resources Division has an engineer, a manager, which is myself, an associate hydrologist, a person who runs the surface water monitoring program, and then currently a hydrology tech position who is meant to assist any of the positions with overflow of work and or take some of the field work and to rove around the positions as the different duties of the division get busy at different times of the year. We had, as the staff note says, in September 2020, so for about 9 months, we've been functioning a position down. We've really gotten through this time through close coordination, but also pushing things out to after COVID and higher functioning people completing lower functioning components of the district just to keep all of our permits in place and keep all of our compliance of all of our projects rolling forward. in getting involved closely with the division and kind of coordinating the division, myself as the manager coming into the division, having it be arranged the way that it is, it gave me insight into the need to have the different programs more closely coordinate with one another moving forward. And it gave me the idea that following COVID, when it was possible with the health and safety protocols to bring someone in and train them, that I would like to bring a person in at a level that would be able to plug into some of the higher level functions of the different functions of the Water Resources Division, especially because many of the employees in this division have been at the district for 25 to 35 years and are nearing retirement age. And bringing someone in and having them plug into the higher functions of the district in a career ladder type position will allow us to cross-train, have someone hopefully glean the institutional knowledge from the people that they're learning from, and create an employee retention and a future kind of looking direction for the district to bring it more into a cross-trained functional program. So the request would be to convert the existing position, so we would not be creating a new position, into from a tech level position, which has no real advancement potential, to the lowest career ladder in the hydrologist series. It would come at the cost of $3,500 for this fiscal year due to the difference in salaries. But we would not need to do a budget adjustment because by the time we get a new person in, we would have not been paying the field or the hydrotech position. So we would actually save some money by the end of this year. And we also see that there's some potential cross savings where we could use someone coming in with skill sets such as GIS or database projects that we would not need to rely on the district consultants as much. We could bring some of those functionalities into the Water Resources Division and move forward in that way. So it's a multifaceted program, chromatic type change. Looking forward, that kind of COVID, while it's been a struggle, it did give some insights into different things that we may not have seen coming. So we're choosing to try to move forward with hiring this position at a slightly different level.
Thank you, John. And that was all really well explained in your memo. So I just want to take this opportunity to say very briefly that I always read the staff memos before the meetings, and I typically forget some of the details, but I really appreciate the memos, and they're usually very good and very clear, and this explained everything really well. Plus, when you your presentation at the meetings is, I'm sure, helpful for any member of the public who's listening and hasn't read the memo. So I just want to thank all of the staff for the work you put into those good memos. Any questions or comments from directors?
Yes. Where's John? John?
He's
Yeah,
right there.
yes, can you see me?
Is
I
there-
don't see you.
Well,
Oh, here you are.
Yes.
What happened to the other equipment that you had in the last meeting, all on the wall? All the instruments.
That is my home, and this is my office in Monterey.
Okay.
And that one right there doesn't work. It's just art. The other ones all work.
Okay, next time you make a proposal, can you please use some of these instruments?
I'll have to do it through the GM, but we'll see.
yeah.
I'll sit in with harmonica.
Yay,
Okay,
that's my next instrument, harmonica.
all right.
Really?
Yep. Someday. I just want to say, well said, Karen. I agree. Very clear.
But the question, you said that this cost will be offset by other savings. Are we actually, is this becomes a wash then, that although we are authorizing this, it will be compensated for by another expenditure that will go away?
Well, for this water year, it will be a wash, or for this financial year, it will be a wash because we have not been paying a position for July, August. By the time we get someone in, the earliest would be maybe late September. My goal is to get a person in for the beginning of the water year so they can see the entire cycle of their duties from the beginning to the end. Then there will be a cost, which will be the increase of the, paying. This salary comes in at a different salary range than the other one. So there would be in Suresh's budget presentations, there would be a increase in the employee salary. But in his budget presentations, he always has little pieces of pies that are related to the consultants that we use and for GIS. And so my division would not need to use, if I could bring someone in with the GIS skills to maintain the data sets that I want to maintain that I currently use the consultant for, we would not need to pay the consultant for work that I could pay a salaried employee to do related to my division. So I don't think I can map it totally one-to-one for you like that, but those would be the pieces that would be traded back and forth in the financial
Thank you.
budget.
I have one more comment. I'm really glad that you're thinking ahead about transitions and you're thinking ahead to the skill set we're going to need and preparing for it and bringing someone on that will be able to advance and build the skill set, and that you're recommending converting it to a career position to facilitate that. And I'm glad the staff is giving thought to that. And also that you took advantage of the COVID situation to get these new insights into maybe making some organizational changes. So I'd just like to thank you, the staff, for that thoughtful approach. Any other comments from directors or questions? Can we check, please, to see, Sarah, to see if any member of the public wants to comment on this item?
Yes, Director Paul, I see John Tilley has his hand raised. Mr. Tilley, would you like to make a comment?
Hi there, Sarah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't intend to comment on this at all, but I gotta say that hearing just some of the discussion, you gotta be super careful because I just heard a conversation that said a person's age is gonna be a consideration in the hiring decision. And that is just like nails on a chalkboard. That should never be a consideration. And in doing so, you just open yourself up. So be real careful about how people's health is discussed and their age and things of this nature. Thank you very much.
Any other members of the public requesting to comment?
I see no other raised hands.
Thank you. I move that we approve the staff recommendation on item 5.
Second.
Okay.
I think Director Anderson got there a split second.
Okay.
Okay.
Good for her.
Okay, let's have a vote, please.
Director Malik,
Yes.
Director Paul,
Yes.
Director Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Okay, next item. Item 6.
To be Stephanie.
That would be me. So this item is a request for support for funding of $7,005.66, which is included in this year's fiscal year budget to purchase conservation outreach supplies for events that we've got coming up in the next year. What we've done with this is kind of gone with a slightly lower number of supplies than we would normally do, just because we really don't have storage space right now. And also don't know what kind of participation we'll have in these events, but we do have 3 large events coming up in the next 2 months. And so we would like to purchase some, and these are actually more of the kind of fun things, which are the playing cards, coloring books, and those types of supplies that we hand out to people that come to our events. In addition to these things that we're purchasing in this item, we also hand out free shower heads, faucet aerators, shut-off nozzles for hoses, and other equipment like little drip counters and things that people can use to help save water around the house. Dish squeegees. But we have all sorts of things. Shower buckets are going to be coming back out, I think, this year. Anyway, so this is just a smaller purchase for the our immediate needs, and we'd like to have support of the administrative committee.
What are the events coming up?
We have the Carmel Valley Fiesta, the Monterey County Fair, and we have one of the days is a Water Awareness Day. And there is, oh boy, there's another event that I can't think of right now. So I know there are 3 coming up in the next 2 months.
Is that Good Old Days in Pacific Grove?
And then we always do that. Yeah. So next year, when we get into the next spring, we participate in 3 or 4 different Earth Day events. We have Good Old Days. Yeah, we do a lot of these things. We do Cutting Day at City of Monterey, just to get out there. And in fact, we also have had tables at the Monterey Farmers Market and other farmers markets. So we'll be looking at that.
Good. Other questions, comments from directors?
I have a quick question. And this, I noticed the 1.5 gallon per minute shower heads. When was that? I mean, is that what all new houses use? Is there a rule for that?
I think the California, the energy requirement is 2 gallons per minute, but we have been purchasing and supplying 1.5s and they work really well. And so we've been doing that for a number of years.
I don't know, our house is probably 30 years old and I need a bucket. I need to measure it.
Well, I'll set you up with everything you need.
I need a bucket. That's great.
And when Stephanie mentioned energy, oddly, the water efficiency requirements are created by the California Energy Commission. So,
well, it's tied into how much hot water is used primarily. I mean, that's where the energy comes in.
Yeah.
Stephanie, do you periodically sort of take a look at what items we're procuring and what, whether it's the right mix in terms of what seems to be the most useful?
Yes, in fact, we just did a full inventory. Most of the supplies that we have at the district are the shower heads and faucet aerators and those types of devices, because they're a hot item at these events. They're also, the public comes and picks them up. In fact, since our office opened last week, that has been pretty much the public has been in only to pick up things like that. And like I say, especially in this type of a year, the hose nozzles, everybody wants hose nozzles. And, and I'll drive around and I actually see gardeners that aren't using them and give them a hose nozzle and tell them they have to use it. So.
Can you tell me what a cutting mat is that saves water?
So one of the devices is a plastic cutting mat, and like you'd use in your kitchen to cut on, but it lists a bunch of water saving ideas, things like, run your dishwasher. So they're just they're educational materials more than anything else. And the playing cards are really cute because they have conservation messages on the playing cards. And so that's really the whole point, is to save water out there.
Yeah.
Very clever. Okay. Can we check to see if there are members of the public that want to address the board on this item, please?
I see no raised hands.
Okay, then I move that we adopt the recommendation, the staff recommendation on item 6.
Second,
Let's vote, please.
Director Malik,
Yeah,
Director Paul,
Yes.
and Director Anderson.
yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Very good. And we have the treasurer's report, item 7.
Yeah, good afternoon, directors. So this is the treasurer's report for the month of May. We wrote checks during the month. We wrote checks in the amount of little over $2.2 million. It was a big check run for us, and simply because we had 2 payments to go into Monterey. One water, one was for close to $750,000 for towards the PWM expansion cost. The other one was about the same amount, 750 or a little over than that, and that was for the PWM water sale. So those two entailed about 1.5. The remainder was just the district normal business. So that's why it was a heavy check run. And if you go to page 67, which is the Exhibit 7A, that is the actual treasurer's report, you can see we started the month with little over $19.2 million. And we closed the month with little over 17.2 or close to $17.3 million. And all of the accounts are listed in the separate columns, the checking, the money market, the LAIF, where we hold majority of our liquid investments, and then the multi-securities bank, which is the staggered CD account. And then we also report on the Pebble Beach Reclamation money market account, simply because we deal with the water sales and collection of the golf course water bills, and then we transfer it over to Carmel Area Wastewater District, because they run the operations for the facility. So once a month, we go ahead and do the collections and then turn it over to, send it over to COD. Exhibit 7B and C are basically the listing of the normal check run, rebate check run, and also the payroll. And then Exhibit 7D is the unaudited financial statement for the month of May. And with that, I will take any questions the directors have.
Any questions from directors? Okay, I don't have any this time myself. Sarah, can you see if any members of the public wish to address this item?
I see no raised hands, Director Paul.
Okay, then the recommendation is actually what, to present it to the board.
Correct.
Just, and I move to approve the recommendation.
Second,
Let's have a vote, please.
Director Malik,
yeah,
Director Paul,
Yes.
and Director Anderson.
yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Okay, and we move on to information items.
Yes, so the information items are just there in case you've got questions
Mhm.
and or discussion. Otherwise, we can move on to item 11.
Are there any questions on the information, any of the informational items?
Got one. I'm kind of afraid to ask it. It's about the COD financial stuff. There's names of things I've never heard of in here, but I did look one of them up. So this is the variable rate certificates of participation. It's not the same as obviously a like a CD or something
Yeah,
like that. But
think of them as just like a municipal bond. So it was a public offering, a borrowing, but it's not considered debt, but it's debt-like. And so we sell the water from the reclamation project on an installment sale basis, and those payments line up with debt payments
okay,
over a 30-year period. And in this particular case, instead of fixing the interest rate one time like you would with a fixed rate mortgage,
Mhm.
unless of course you refinance it, these started off in a variable rate interest rate setting mode and have remained that way for the 27 years that they've been outstanding, 28 now. And that saved all the participants a great deal of money, because at the time, interest rates were in the 6 to 7% range for tax exempt debt. And the average interest rate over the last, call it 10 years has been less than 1% on average, and hovers around 1% these days, or 1 point. I don't know, Suresh, you got any example of what recent?
Yeah, for this last 6 months, the period that I'm reporting, it ranged from 0.02 to 0.08.
Yeah, so just an incredible low cost borrowing.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a big help.
Yeah, the banker who suggested that was just genius. Oh, that was me when I was a banker. Oh.
Well, you could have come up with an easier way to describe it. Your description now is great. Thank you. All right.
That's wonderful. And in Exhibit 8A, I'm looking at the LAFCO, the total expended to date for LAFCO, and it says 39, little over 39,000. But that's for May.
Right, and that's just LAFCO. So that's their staff. So just as we charge an applicant for a permit, any of the legal review, LAFCO charges all of its applicants for all of their staff time.
Okay, so we will see the updated numbers soon. In fact, maybe at the board meeting, we can look at those the current expenditures to date.
Yeah, through the end of June, likely.
Yeah, through the end of June. I mean, we've just closed the month. The bills are still coming in. So even if there's a bill coming in from LAFCO, we probably won't see it for another week to 2 weeks, maybe towards the end of this month.
Okay.
How detailed are their billings?
From LAFCO, yeah, they invoice with hours and hourly rates. So we do see where the expenses have gone.
And do they have like a carte blanche of whatever expenditure they want?
Yes and no. So the early work, and then, so we authorized the initial work. Then they came back and they said, this is going to take longer and more hours, so we want an upfront payment to work against. That went to the board, and I think that was 30,000 or 35,000. And we will be discussing the most recent LAFCO intent to hire a third party and have us pay for it. We'll be discussing that in the next several days. Now, I'm going to confess, I'm looking at Exhibit 9A, and I don't see the LAFCO line. Suresh, can you direct me?
Yes, LAFCO line is actually in the contingency miscellaneous uncommitted, because we started with the smaller amount.
Yep.
We did not give it a new project code, so unfortunately, we jumped into that.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So given LAFCO's friendly attitude towards this water district, are we obligated to pay them anything?
Well, Mr. Laredo can weigh in.
The answer is they have the legal right to charge for their actual cost of evaluating the our application. So yes, they do.
And while this is not an item that was on the notice of incompletion, it's still an item that they will then say, in order for us to conclude our deliberations, we will need this. And so our choice is to say, well, we don't want to pay for it. And then they'll say, well, we're not going to do it. And then they'll say, you won't get your powers activated. You know, it's just like a little standoff.
If there's any solace here, though, formally, practice was to seek an indemnification. So if LAFCO was sued, the applicant would then incur the cost of their defense. The courts have struck that down, so LAFCO will not be able to, if LAFCO is sued over their actions, then that cost of indemnification can no longer legally be passed on to the district as the applicant.
However, we did sign their indemnification agreement.
It's the agreement itself has been determined to be overreaching and not enforceable.
Is this a recent development?
Yes.
That's awesome.
So they really got us, and they giving us this hard time, and we just take it on the chin and say, okay, we charge us more.
No, they can only charge for their actual costs of effort, and it has to be reasonably related to the action that's taken.
But they're recommending that they hire a third party to evaluate this and that and the other.
Unfortunately, that is within their discretion.
And we pay for that.
That's correct.
Yeah, there's a lot of unhappiness and frustration over that situation. We'll have to do.
Yeah, and there is a little bit of good news associated with that topic that we will talk about in closed session, because it's all bundled up in the threat of litigation as well as real property negotiation.
Okay, I look forward to that.
Good. Okay, and any other questions on these informational items? Okay, let's go. So it looks like there is not. The July 19th board meeting agenda.
Yes, and there are some changes from what you have in your packet, and even more changes since action item 3 was pulled. So action item 3, I guess first question I have to have for, I see Larry is off. Thomas, maybe this would be you. Is that item not coming back for a month, or did you want to take it straight to the board as an action item?
That item will not be back until next month.
Okay. So it comes off the consent calendar. We will be adding Stephanie's item, the conservation supplies, to the consent calendar. And there is what's called the low flow memorandum of understanding, or MOU, between us and other regulators and CalAm that will go on the consent. And that's an annual event. That'll change all the numbering. What you have in your packet that says public hearings, that'll be gone. There are none. And there are no other additions, just renumberings at that point. So relatively light. The purpose of the 2 discussion items, just so you know, 11 is just so that you and the public know that we have an obligation to examine our voting divisions with every census. And this will just be to let the full board know what we've done, who we've hired. I think that's already been discussed when we adopted the contract. But also let the public know we've had a couple of inquiries about wanting to be on the citizens panel and have public participation. And I know that's what the county is doing. The county's advertised it. You may have seen it in either the Pine Cone or the Weekly. We feel it's premature until we get any indication from the demographers that boundaries will need to be redrawn. That would be the appropriate time to get a citizens panel involved to talk about those decisions. So we're not expecting their first cut on the data to be available until this fall. And so at that time, we'll take it to the next steps, but public doesn't know about that. And then old item 12, which again will be renumbered on COVID reopening. That's just again, so the public understands that our permit desk is open and staffed. I think, well, Suresh and I today we're working on the self-certification of vaccination form. So there's kind of 3 or 4 areas we just want to let you know that we're moving on. So that's what that discussion's about. But because there's not a whole lot of action required, it should be a relatively short meeting, which might be nice for a change in July. So,
Good.
yeah.
I have a question. I guess, well, for whoever, Suresh, when I look at the budget, I don't see any items listed under internet security, that kind of thing. And so I assume we have something.
Yeah, and Suresh can address this. We've been mostly focused recently on bolstering our protection from hackers with ransomware attacks.
Mm-hmm.
We've spent quite a bit of time to date making our servers more resilient and having a better backup system. Suresh invested some well-spent money on our recovery system. Suresh, if you want to just touch on
so
where the priorities have been.
Exactly, Director Anderson, what we've done, and this all started with basically when we outsourced our IT functions. And in the budget itself, you'll see a line item, which is IT supplies and services. And it is about I want to say about a $200,000 line item or a little less than that. But that actually entails all of the licensing, softwares, backups, the antivirus, firewall, all of the security components related to IT is all dumped in that line item. And then what Dave was alluding to is recently we've upgraded our BDR system, which stands for backup data data restoration
recovery.
Data recovery, correct, BDR. Keep mixing all those acronyms. So we've invested into a BDR system, which basically not only, in the old method was the tape. We have invested into a appliance, which basically has a backup system being run on site. And then also a copy or several copy of that is also stored in the cloud itself. So in the event we have a big disaster, the disaster recovery is much easier. It used to be probably weeks, and now that entails to about maybe just a couple of hours getting it done. And also in the event that our system is completely wiped out, let's just say the building doesn't exist anymore, things like that, the cloud backup will actually serve as our host where our users are able to log into from anywhere once we provide or make that accessible. So our data would be kind of like available, I'd say probably within hours, as opposed to, in the old method where we would have to go look for a device, pull up the tapes, restore the data, like weeks and weeks of data. I'll focus next, and you will probably get to hear this more in about maybe a month to 2 months. We are looking into getting a network vulnerability assessment done. And that's simply because the Colonial Pipeline and the JBL food services supplies, and then also now the Kaseya ransomware. So we've been reading all this, and we are also nervous about things. So we just want to get a network vulnerability assessment completed as well, just to kind of like test our system and see where they are. If there are holes, how do we make it even better? How do we make it even stronger? One suggestion did come up from this informal meeting actually was, in addition to all of these backups, we'd want to invest in, and it's not an expensive investment. It's basically just a small, maybe $1,000 to $2,000 device where basically we are planning on having it on site, plugging it into our network on Friday evening so that all the data can be backed up to that physical device, and then coming back on Monday morning, unplugging it from the network. So In the event we get attacked by ransomware or something like that, they go for the backups, they try to delete backups, they try to block backups. But in this case, because the device is physically present, they're not going to be able to touch that data, and we would still have access to data in case if we ever got attacked and
Yeah.
bad people
And-
are coming after us.
And we remain somewhat vulnerable to email phishing attacks and things like
Mhm.
that. We have added layers of security for that, which, as you probably well know, if you turn up your security features too high, then certain things
Don't work.
don't come in that you want. And if they're
Right.
too low, you get, everything from,
Yeah.
photos from Eastern Europe and other things. So we've had some fits and starts with the level of security, but we've had that in place now for three plus years, I think.
Yeah, we've also moved our website from our internal network. Basically, there was
Yeah.
a big breach for us where if we were hosting the website, that means public were able to get into our network system by accessing the website. So we've actually moved the website out of our network. It's now hosted by Azure. So that's another big peace of mind for us.
And what he means by that is just, I think it's straightforward, but if you find yourself behind the wall of our internet website, and lo and behold, there's all the financial data, HR data, and everything else sitting in the other pockets. By hosting it separately, you've taken away that link.
That link, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for a good, extensive answer.
Yeah.
I knew it was there, but just never saw it.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Director Anderson, for that very good question. Is Aqua involved in this issue at all? Involved in giving?
They've sent out some advice from time to time, but I think to date, CSDA, which is the California Special Districts Association, has been a little bit more ahead on telling people what's going on. And then Suresh has kind of through his municipal finance officers group, they've got some job-alike sharing. So he'll hear things from time to time. But no, usually we hear about it after something bad has happened. There's not been a whole lot of pro-action out of Aqua on this topic.
Okay, thank you. So glad you're trying to stay on top of this and be proactive.
Yeah, I don't think we want to, but it's a necessity these days.
Yep, it sure is.
Well, and keep in mind that if Measure J progresses and you elect to move forward, then we'll be inheriting and bolstering a whole nother level of protection. The Internet of Things, basically all that, what happened to the Colonial Pipeline, all operating utilities, Monterey One Water as an example, Cal-Am as an example, have multiple layers of protection so that somebody can't just come in and start tweaking valves and pressures and so forth from the outside. And so it's a very large expense in an operating utility.
So any other questions about the board agenda, the agenda for the July 19th board meeting? Or any more information that the staff wants to share about it?
Nope. Let's keep it really short.
Okay, that we have a short meeting. We can have a short meeting today as well. So thank you all of the staff for bringing all these items to and presenting them to us and explaining and answering our questions. And
I second that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks
And
everybody for your involvement, and
we are adjourned.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon. Bye.
Bye.